Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cowboys Takeover. I am Jason Kent. Oh, man, draft's over. Kind of right for OTAs. Not a lot going on. The big news this last week, they did do the schedule drop. So that's what Mr. Aaron James and myself today will be going over. Will be the 2024 schedule review. Kind of go through it, a few weeks at a time, go over what could be some trap games. If you saw any upsets for Dallas side. I know last year Aaron and I were off a little bit. Aaron was closer. He had them winning division, and they did. I did not. And they did, and they shocked us. But I shocked myself this year. I'm going to bring in Mr. Aaron James. We're going to discuss this. Aaron, how you feeling today? The schedule just dropped last week, the whole league schedule. I was kind of shocked when I saw Dallas' schedule. I thought, and now I think the Eagles have a pretty easy schedule too, and we will go over that in this our segments over the upcoming weeks, going over each of the division schedules. But I was pretty happy with what I saw Dallas' schedule to be. I think it is on the easier side. They can definitely stack some wins with this schedule that we have now. I cannot hear you. You're muted.
When I hear you say stack wins and looking at the schedule, I'm seeing that more on the tail end. That's what but the last week it's like a holiday for NFL fans when the NFL schedule comes out. Everyone wants to see who the primetime games are. Did they announce who's starting the season? Is it?
I thought it was Eagles
Packers?
and Eagles Packers in Mexico, right? Isn't that
in Brazil?
Brazil,
I think it's Brazil. And we have Tom Brady's first game as a commentator, if I recall correctly.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't hear that. That's going to be exciting. I'm kind of he's following. You got Romo. Last year, I think they brought, was it Olsen? He did a pretty good job, and now they shoved Olsen to the wayside for Brady.
Yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see how Brady, how he commentates around Dak. I mean, he's already been questioned about it, and he's like, hey, we're going to see if Dak can prove himself. And he's kind of going with the media theme and breakdown. But, man, I mean, when I saw opening up at Cleveland, that's a nice little test run right there.
I agree. No, I 1,000% agree. The one thing that'll be cool I think it'll be nice about Brady. I know we're going off the schedule a bit, but he's calling the knowledge, the inside. Like, I remember listening to Romo just talk about the game, and I remember the phenomenon when he first started, like calling the plays out. But just hearing like what he's seeing from the quarterback's eyes, I always love hearing those guys talk. I loved listening to the Manning cast, just getting that perspective from their side of it, what they're saying and what they should be calling. And it's crazy. Most of the time they're right. So I just think hearing it from like the guy I guess I consider number one will probably end number two because I think Mahomes passes him. But right now the guy's the best quarterback to ever play the game. So getting his insights is going to be a lot of fun. But like you said, starting in Cleveland, we're going to go. They have a very early, I feel like it's an earlier bye this week, especially with an 18-week schedule. They have a bye week 7. So jumping right into it, we'll just go over the first few games. Like you said, week 1, they start at Cleveland. Then they come home for 2 against the Saints and Baltimore. On the road against the Giants. Then they stay on the road against Pittsburgh. And they come home to close it out against Detroit before their bye week. So we have 6 games. They have a couple of primetime games in there. They have 2 primetimes back-to-back. In those first 6 weeks, what did you have their schedule looking like? Did you see any of those games that was kind of worries you? Or one that you're like, okay, I think that team may be better than us, so we could squeak one out here?
Yeah, so, I mean, really, when I'm looking at the schedule, I'm saying which team can run on us.
Okay.
And that's really how I'm evaluating a lot of what takes place. For example, week 1 between Cleveland, I think whoever rushes the most will win that game. But I have us going into the bye at 5-1. We come out on top. we come out on top against Cleveland to start the season. We handle the Saints and I have our loss against Baltimore
Okay.
with Derrick Henry, man, coming in. Even though they're coming to Dallas where we play
God,
and had
he's
been dominating.
there. I 1,000% forgot he signed Baltimore. I just made that L a little bit bigger. Oh my
Yeah,
sheet too.
yeah.
Oh, so you have them closing out even against Detroit. You think they've they get by Detroit legitimately this year?
Yeah, and that's a big point. Legitimately, we kind of squeaked by them, but there were some ancillary things that happened throughout that game too that we've discussed before. So yeah, I think we stay hot. I think they're going to be primarily a passing team. It's going to kind of fall into our strength. Um, so yeah, I have us coming out on top against Detroit, and that'll be kind of one of our notable wins before our bye.
So I have them a little different. I do have them at 4-2 coming in here. I have them losing to Baltimore. I definitely, and when I saw that, I do have them losing to Detroit as well. The Cleveland game does worry me.
Of course.
How well is Nick Chubb? Is he 100%? Legitimately, 25 minutes ago, I had that game as a loss. I started doing my research, and I'm like, okay, Nick Chubb's coming back. Is he 100% healthy? Is Watson healthy? And they haven't played a game. Watson really got hurt. We got hurt last year, and that was his first year really back, I believe, right? I think so. It's not like he's played a lot of football. They're going to have to get back into the swing of things. Dallas
Amari Cooper is another year older.
Another year older now. He's going to have to relearn Flacco, and those game reps just aren't like they don't have the time like Dak and CD do. Even bringing Elliott back with pass protection, I think that's a big thing because I was a little worried with Cleveland because I think they do have the edge rushers.
Yeah.
But what put me over the top was the injuries, and I do think Elliott coming back is going to help a lot in pass protection because we have essentially, could be a second year, maybe a rookie starting at center, and we are going to have a rookie left tackle. So
against Myles Garrett.
So, and they have one of the old pass rushers that was really good for Detroit, not Detroit, Green Bay a few years back. I forget which one it is. Let me get the depth chart up.
Yeah, so that's what worries me the
Darius
most,
Smith.
actually.
So, but that's where I like the Elliott signing. To me, that's where kind of the injuries on their offense, bringing Elliott back in for the pass rush or pass protection, that one swayed me. When I sat down and really looked at it, that one I was struggling with. There was a lot of games I was able to go through and just mark through the schedule. I was like, okay, I know where this is going. The Detroit and the Cleveland, I really had to go back and forth on. I just think Detroit gets us this year. But I don't think I think it's one of those games. It's going to be a close game the whole time. We're not going to get blown out because, it stinks because that's a potential for that number one seed. And we're going to lose to a team that's going to be there fighting for it. But I think that's where I think Detroit comes out on top. They're a little bit better overall. They don't have the weaknesses, I think, like Dallas does on defense with their such a bad pass rush. We saw what Detroit could do last year rushing the ball. And Goff and those guys are just another year more seasoned together, with him and St. Brown and those receivers. And that tight end they have is just next level. So that's where I think they get it. But hey, going 4-2, you're going into your bye week. You beat Cleveland. I think Pittsburgh's going to be a solid team. So you beat them. I think going into your bye week at 4-2 is not bad. I think coming out, I think we're in for a run here. But I think that's you think that 5-1, I think I would enjoy that. But I think a lot of this too has to do with, does CD hold out? Because I think if CD holds out, that week one could switch and then it could snowball if they lose that.
Yeah, I think what CD has in his favor is that these tough matchups, key matchups before the bye, because you don't want to find yourself in come Turkey Day or even soon after the bye in must-win situations.
Yeah.
What's fortunate for us is we have a weak division. We're gonna get into that here, and so that's gonna bow well in our favor. and helping us make the playoffs.
Yeah, and then coming out of the bye, we have you start off tough. You come out of the bye against San Fran, two straight away games as well. Then you're going to Atlanta, then you get to come home against Philly and Houston. Then you travel to Washington, and then you come home again against the Giants. When I looked at that, at first I'm like, okay, we got some tough games in there. You got a Houston team, you got San Fran, you got Philly. Atlanta could make a resurgence. Kirk Cousins, not a bad quarterback, especially with the talent Atlanta has. But this is going to surprise you a little bit here, Aaron. I did my research.
Okay.
I knows what I'm talking about. Dallas is going to finish that little 6-week stretch at 6-0. I got them going 6-0. I got them beating San Fran, Atlanta. They're playing Philly at home. I think they beat them because I think they split. I still think Dallas. I think the Houston game. Houston's a good team. I truly believe Dallas is a better team than Houston right now. That was one of those games. I think in this part of the schedule, I think the swing games are really Cleveland. The teams that are going to decide you: Cleveland, Baltimore, Detroit, and then Houston there, because those are games that could. Well, really, I guess Baltimore I do think's better than them. So those three could go either way. But I haven't beaten them. So, and then, I think they're better than Washington and the Giants, but the big one there, the one I really sat on was San Fran, because I was going back and forth. You know what I did? Because we like to talk about trap games here.
Yeah.
I think that's a trap game for San Fran. When I looked at San Fran's schedule, the week before that, they play Kansas City. You play Kansas City, So they want Kansas City. You saw how Eagles did this year. Eagles went into Kansas City. I think they beat Kansas City. They got hype. San Fran wants Kansas, and Kansas City comes to San Fran. I think San Fran gives Kansas City the whooping. They get to play Dallas in San Fran. I think they have Kansas City. You get Dallas. You got your bye week. I think they're going to whoop on Kansas City. Really put a stinker up against Dallas because they just beat them and they know going to their bye, they got that off week. I think that's a trap game. I know it's not against Dallas, but I think Dallas benefits from that right there. And I think, listen, Dallas is a good team. This is what shocked me when I was going through this schedule, and I told you I was going to be shocked. I'm sure you didn't look at this portion so far and think I was going 6-0 there.
No.
I think they're a good team, and I think they get a lot of favors so far with the schedule.
Okay. Wow. So, San Francisco just seems to have our number, and I don't see a way. I don't see a way, as optimistic as I am, and I love what you point out and going into the schedule there.
Man,
but
wait a second. Is this the first time ever that I feel like I'm more optimistic than you? I feel like because you're usually it. I feel like you set the bar for the optimism in this show. And the fact that I got Dallas beating San Fran and you don't, I'm proud of myself. My optimism with, I know why it is.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So San Francisco, they seem to have our number. Going back to what I said in the beginning, that I think teams that will be able to run on us, it will bode well for them. Kyle Shanahan. It just depends if Zimmer can do his thing. They're still stacked on their offensive line. They still have Trent Williams. They still have all their weapons, unless CMC or Debo are not able to play. I don't see us being able to sneak out of there with a win. Hopefully, it's just not a demoralizing win, because I have a trap game for us that I typically use for a division opponent. I have us going east to Atlanta.
That's a good trap game right there
against Kirk Cousins, and I think that they're going to have a really. I think they're going to surprise everyone this year. That's going to be the surprise team of the year.
You haven't come out of the bye with 2 straight.
Yeah. I think it's good. go, you're going coast to coast from Dallas to
That's
San
a great
Fran.
that is, especially with who you're playing the week after,
Yeah.
because you have to. You're not even going to really, yeah.
So you're going coast to coast, and then you're coming home, and you get your feet under you. We do split with the Eagles, and we play them well at home. I don't see them, even with Saquon coming in and beating us at home. I don't see that happening. Jalen Hurts has to kind of revamp himself again. He became a turnover machine in many ways last year. I do agree with you. We are better than the Texans. But that game, they'll want to make a statement. So we just have to be careful there. And I think this is 2 of the last 3 years we play the Giants on Thanksgiving Day. Something along those lines. I'm just going off memory there. But the Giants, they're not going to be good at all this year. I don't know if they'll win more than 4 games.
Yeah, it's there. That's we got Washington last year. We got the Giants this. I enjoy being fed these Thanksgiving Day matchups. They're very nice. Makes for an easier Thanksgiving dinner,
Yeah, Zeke will be in the Salvation Army bucket a couple times, at
1,000%
least
that day.
probably 3 times.
Oh, we're giving him a 3-tutter Thanksgiving Day comeback. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if Zeke can hop into it 3 times anymore. He's not young and spry like he used to be.
Whoa.
Sorry, Zeke.
So I'm at 9-3 after Turkey Day.
Okay, listen, you got him 9-3. I got him 10-2. So that's they're going to me right there. Right, both of those records are right there in for the division. Mm-hmm. I can't believe I finished with a better record than you this year. And I do think that Atlanta game could be a trap game. I just think coming off in my mindset, I think that Detroit loss to me kind of resets Dallas going into the bye. And Mike McCarthy and Dak know what they need to do. Dak is 1,000% playing for a contract for someone. Mm-hmm. So the better Dak does, it's only going to help Dak in the long run, whether it's here or somewhere else. That's where, when you're saying trap game, you think you don't see Atlanta or San Fran. To me, I think they know it's 1,000% on that right arm of Dak Prescott. And I've said it before. I do think he throws for 5,000. I think CD gets very close, if not breaks the yardage record this year. That's why I think coming out of that bye, they're locked in. I think they're, to me, that's why I have them sweeping, and then week 14 through 18, you got Cincinnati, you got Carolina, Tampa Bay. So you're at Carolina, and then you're at Philly, and then you're home against Washington. So you get 3 games at home, 2 on the road. What do you have them finishing out down the stretch there?
I have them losing to Cincinnati reluctantly. We've had their number. Okay, even with rush hour.
You just said San Fran had our number. That's why we can't beat them. So if we have their number, they shouldn't be able to beat us.
They shouldn't, but
they do.
I think they come out on top this year if Joe Burrow's healthy.
I feel like I'm the homer.
Now their offensive line is a little bit suspect. So, we can very well easily get after.
I don't think their defense is that great either.
You're right. That was the one that I was least confident about. But I got to the end and I'm like, shoot, I don't know if this is respectable here. I gotta find another spot where we can, let's be honest. Last year we lost to Arizona. Okay. I don't see an Arizona on the schedule. So for that reason,
that's why
I'm going with the Bengals. I'm going with the Bengals to beat us. And then I have us losing to the Eagles to split. And Dan Quinn doesn't get a W against us this year.
I agree. Wow. Aaron James. So you finish your final record is what? 12-5?
Yes.
12-5. Oh my God. Aaron, I am disappointed in you, dude. I'm disappointed. The Jason of last year Never would have thought Jason of this year would have a better record than you coming in on our first prediction show for the record for the year. But I think, like I said, I think this season rests a lot on Dak. I think Dak can feast on teams with inferior defenses. And I think by week 14, they're going to know what their offensive line is. They're going to be cohesive. It's not like you have, as good as Tyron was for us, he's not in there getting hurt. He's going to miss a few games. So I do think hopefully they all stay healthy. You get that offensive line in there starting spring, what's it called? Not spring training. What's football called? Preseason. You get a cohesive unit. And I think by week 14, they're kicking. So I think that offensive line is not going to be a question. I don't think Cincinnati really has the run game to beat us. I do think, what they do well is what our defense does great. Our defense can get after the quarterback, and we got two pretty damn good cornerbacks. They're going to try to throw the ball. So it's strength on strength. And I think I think we can make more plays. And I think our offense is just better than their defense. If there is an Arizona game, it's going to be Carolina. But I think they smoke Carolina. I don't think Tampa Bay is anything special. They're a team. If they're playing hot, if Baker's really feeling it, Mike Evans is a damn good receiver and he's tough to guard. So, but I have them winning. I have them losing at Philly because I do think they split. I do, like you said, I think they go 1-1. It's really tough for good division teams to sweep. So, I always give them 1-1, and I have them finishing out at Washington. I'm sorry, home against Washington. I think they're just a better team than Washington. They're a better team than the Giants, so they should sweep both of those teams. So I have them finishing that stretch at 4-1. So I'm going 14-3 on the season. Listen, there's a lot of games in there. Okay. So I'm like, when I say 14-3, when I look at, do I think I think it could happen 1,000%. And I do think the Detroit one could be a win, so Dallas, but there are some games, the games that are really going to make this season, there's a few of them. Cleveland, Detroit, Houston, and Cincinnati, I think, are the 4 games that sway you between being a number 1 seed, winning your division, or being a wild card team. I think those are the big games because I agree. I think like a million times you split, you go 5-1 in the division. I think the Eagles go 5-1 in the division. Those are the games that are going to matter the most, and I got them going 3-1 in those games, and 14-3. That's a number 1 seed. I haven't looked through the Eagles. I know they're pretty easy. So I think it's going to come down to a lot of the who you beat in your matchups if they finish with the same record. So I think that's where a lot of those matchups are going to be very important, that the Dallas wins those at the end of the day, especially the division or the conference matchups. Like against Cincy and Cleveland they're big, but you don't want to lose any in conference matchups.
Right. True. I mean, I think that's very optimistic. When on paper, we're not as good of a team right now as we were last year, just taking our offensive line into account.
I agree. Listen,
so
I shocked myself. I was shocked. I think when I looked at the depth chart, they have a dude that's a second-year center, probably going to start the rookie. They have the terrible run defense.
We're going to have to see in August what the Madden simulator has against.
What the Madden has them at?
Yeah.
Listen, I think I was optimistic, but I think Cleveland does have their weaknesses. Cincinnati has their weaknesses. Like I don't believe that Dallas is that much worse on their weaknesses than the other teams. The San Fran one really shocked me when I looked at that, as when I called it a win. Because you're right. They 1,000% have our number. I think it just plays well for Dallas. But I think there's a lot of guys in that locker room that know this is going to be their last time together. Like, I do think Dak and Martin have been there a long time together. It's CD, Micah. I think there's going to be change. And I think Dak carries him. Dak is a very good regular season quarterback against not great teams. And when you look at it, the only teams on this page, when I look at teams that, when I'm going to say very much better than us, I think Baltimore would definitely be favor over us. I think San Fran's better than us, but I do have them beating them.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I don't know who's, when you say, I think the Eagles are slightly better than us, but I think Dallas is good enough to beat them. I don't think there's that throwaway. So listen, Kansas City won the Super Bowl last year with no receivers, not the best defense, kind of patched together offensive line, no running back. They have a great quarterback. I think Dak is a very good quarterback, regardless of my hate for him. I know what he could do. I project him play really well. So he has to get paid. He can't have a stinker season, because any type of bad season he has affects his contract.
Right. Hey, look, I like where you're at. I agree with what you said with Cleveland, Detroit, San Fran, Texans, some key Bengals, some key matchups throughout the year that are going to determine our seeding. We both have them as playoff teams.
Yeah.
The last Vegas odds I looked at, 10.5 over, or 10.5 as the marker for the Cowboys this year. We both have them over.
Vegas knows, though. What does Vegas know that I'm missing? Vegas seems to get these things all the time.
I mean, a lot of these games can come down,
Could be a lot of
to the end.
Yeah, but I think that's where Dak has it. Dak,
and I mean,
has an advantage.
Let's not forget the red zone deficiencies we had last year.
Yes,
and we were complaining that, man, Zeke would cure this. I don't know if Zeke is the cure for that this year. Maybe he is, but I don't think so. I
do think they have to. I think in the red zone they have to rely on Zeke when you get, because there was too many possessions inside the 10. But I do think that because Dak's going to have such a good year passing, it's going to open up a lot of those the little draws in the end zone, in the red zone, where I think they didn't really do stuff like that last year. Okay. I think Dak has a big season. Dak's going to be MVP this year.
He has to have a big season. I don't think our number one rusher is probably going to have, I don't know if we have 1,000-yard rusher this year.
Can any of them get 750? You think 850?
I think 850 is the ceiling on one.
Oh, man, that's high, I think. It's going to be, because I don't know if they get enough carries. I don't know if Elliott can be the guy to get that. Because I think if he gets it, though, it's going to be like on a 3.5 yards a carry, and it's not going to be good.
You see, and if we don't think we're going to have that rusher, who's going to run the ball in the fourth quarter in these one-possession games? Like, how are we going to kill the clock?
Oh, I think CD. I don't think they run a lot. I think that's where you utilize Zeke at the end of these games. I think you keep them fresh throughout. Maybe a dump off here, dump off there. Keep them in there for your pass protection. I think that's where, because they're going to have those leads, they're going to use a combination of Zeke and those guys at the end of the game. I think it's going to be a mixture of all of them at the end. By committee, just because they're going to stay. I think they're going to stay fresh. I really think Dak throws a lot. It's going to be, they're going to have more receptions, I think, than they're going to all have close to career years in receptions.
So I think we will have the number one seed if, and remember last year, kind of my bold statement was we have to have, I think I submitted a little bit to top 3 defense, right? Something along those lines.
You had it was top 3, top 5 defense. Yeah.
And this year I say we are not going to be the number one seed unless Micah Parsons is the unanimous defensive player of the year, or Dak is the MVP. Unanimous.
So
MVP. One of those things have to be true. To me.
I've been calling it for weeks now. I do think Dak is MVP. I think CeeDee Lamb does win receiver of the year. And I think this new change, I think Dallas has a clean sweep of, I think they get Defensive Player of the Year too.
Jeez.
Listen, I listen. I'm not a homer for like, and anybody that's listening to this show right now, anybody watching is going to think I'm 1,000% a homer for the Cowboys and probably don't watch a game. If you've paid any attention to us, I'm probably the least optimistic, kind of real, like very real thinking about the team. I truly believe, and that's not, I'm nowhere saying that to me they're the Super Bowl favorite. I don't think they are. But I think though, because I think those positions are very good to win the awards. A quarterback's going to win the MVP. I think Dax has a great regular season. Probably will choke in the playoffs.
And Lamar Jackson won by default.
Yeah, it wasn't a great quarterback.
He did not have
year.
A great year. No.
No, he was, yeah. And I think Micah gets a lot of sacks. I think Micah, listen, they want to give it to Micah. They are trying to give it to Micah. If Micah gets close, if he's within a sack or two for the league lead, like he's been in the top 3 and he probably should, like I think last year he finished second, shouldn't have probably been second. He's getting all of these votes. I feel like they just want to give him this award. Like he's always in there. So I think he has a big season, and I don't believe they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I think during this, I think they have a very, very good regular season.
I'm going to hold up on my expectations for the season probably till August. I really, even though we have them, at good records and going into the playoffs, I really don't know. I'm still tainted, and I don't.
The Green Bay game still hurts.
Expectations. It does.
That Green Bay game still lingering around. Listen, I was the least one I thought would have these expectations for the Cowboys this year. Going into it, we said we're going to, I did it. I'm like, okay, let's still probably be like 10-7. I don't really, and it's like, okay. But I just, yeah. I think a lot changes. We'll see. I know before the season, we'll come on and we'll do another prediction, kind of go over and just see maybe, hey, we got to switch this one here, switch one, that one there. But right now, the schedule just coming out, I'm optimistic about this season. They're going to be in contention for fighting again for that number 1 seed and winning that division, because there hasn't been a back-to-back division winner and since what, the early 2000s, right?
Well, yeah, it's been, I think, over 2 decades.
I think it was like 02, 01, 02, 03, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so I think, and that was my point last season as to why we were going to win the division, because there had been no repeat division winner. So I don't have us winning the division, because I just think that streak goes on again somehow, some way. That streak will continue.
So you have them not even getting a home game in the playoffs.
So why don't you tell everybody and disclose why it is you might be so optimistic this time of year?
Listen. I'm just saying my baseball team is the best baseball team in baseball right now. Okay, the Phillies are the number 1 seed. Listen, they're flying high. They got me feeling good. You got the best team in baseball. You even said it. It's like let's see if this the Phillies how that Philly stuff will have you jaded a little bit, be a little bit more optimistic. It's got me optimistic.
Listen, it.
I think even without it, I think I could definitely. I still, hey, I look at the schedule. If Dallas does what they're supposed to, like they did last season, during the regular season, they did what they're supposed to do. Do it, and you're going to be 14-3 and fighting for that number 1 seed. And then you're going to have a lot of believers going for that Super Bowl.
And if you're right, McCarthy's staying, Dak's getting paid, CD's getting paid, Parsons is getting paid.
They're going to figure something out.
Yeah.
I agree. So, listen, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for listening to this episode of Cowboys Takeover Podcast. Aaron's got him going 12-5. I got him going 14-3. Probably do this every other week throughout the next couple of weeks, going over each of the division's teams, what we're going to have them finishing. And we'll probably do, probably like we did last year, probably do a San Fran, maybe a Detroit, teams that really fighting for that number 1 seed. And then we'll kind of see where Dallas finishes that division. I can't wait to see how Aaron has those other teams, because I don't think he's going to have the Eagles going 12-5. I think those Eagles are going to get max 11 wins on Aaron's schedule. You know what I'm saying?
We'll
Aaron's
see.
going to knock them down. But We really appreciate you guys. You can check us out on all the social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Cowboys Takeover Podcast. Also on YouTube, we can catch our show, catch it on Facebook as well, Spotify as well. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Cannot wait. We will post when we are coming up with that, with the next episode, what team it is, and we're definitely going to have some guests on as well. Some of the same guests. I think Aaron mentioned probably have Dr. Beebe again this year, have a couple other guys for the Eagles and some of those other teams. So until next time, enjoy. Let's go Cowboys. Let us know what you guys think, what you guys have the records at for this upcoming season. Kind of see what you think, how they finish compared to us. Appreciate y'all.